Okay, so this is the last part of my story. I know if you hung in with me and you listened to all of them, you deserve a gold medal. I just want to say I'm wearing a different shirt just in case somebody's like, this isn't the same video. I didn't have the shirt, so here I am in purple. Anywho, so after I just want to say, so I ended up going, I was dating that guy, and he said, you're not going to make it until you're 30 in acting. And then I go to the gym, which was my old middle school locker room, and they rebuilt a gym down there. And he was a Hollywood producer, director. He picked up Angelina Jolie, like I said, and Winona Ryder for Girl Interrupted. I find out it was filmed on the same street that I went to college for acting, and I'm like, holy crap. And then he invites me to be in the movie of The Blue-Eyed Six, which is a true story haunting, and it just so happened I heard of the haunting in high school, and I had brought so many people to that freaking spot to see if we could see the Blue-Eyed Six, all the men. And I mean, you just couldn't make it up. And so I knew, I was like, oh my God, like, God is so with me. Like, I call it a God shot. Like, wow, when you could not make it up and it happens and you're like, whoa, like, something is in the works here. And so what happened was eventually I left him because that was the last straw. I was like, I am done with the abuse from this guy. Like, he is so narcissistic. And I know it sounds so crazy when you're like, why do I keep finding these narcissistic men, or I keep being drawn to narcissistic bosses? And my story sounds crazy because it's like one thing after another after another. But I want to say it is scientifically proven that if you grew up in a dysfunctional household with narcissistic abusive parents, that it's a cycle in your brain, that now you have to complete this cycle because you could never complete it in childhood. And so then you grow up and you think you're okay, and suddenly you're like, why do I keep dating the jerk off? Why do I keep, sorry, excuse my language, but why do I keep dating the jerk? Why do I keep attracting the guys that are so nasty? Why do I keep, so it could even be their parents. And it's because in your mind, you are literally, your brain is now set to finish the cycle of the trauma bond. You're trying to get your parents' approval, your dad's approval, your mother's approval by maybe your boyfriend's mother, your dad's approval by your boyfriend, your dad's approval by your professor who just will not accept you. And so some guy keeps talking. I apologize. He's so loud. And so here I go. I break up with him. I get my own place to live in. I get my own car, and I am like liberated. And I just so happen, I keep saying that, but I end up messaging this guy on Facebook, and I'm like, wow, like, this guy, he is gorgeous. Like, he is who I dreamed of. And we met, and from the night we went to the movies, and we went from there on for 2 years, we were together non-stop. And I'm telling you, I mean, I've never had that connection. The connection I had with him, I don't know if you've ever felt it, because there's levels. But with him, it was like, I mean, we were just joined at the hip. No matter what he did, no matter what I did, we were like, no, we're bonded. And it just so happened that I find out that he introduces me and brings me to his house. He's living with his parents, which they're living with the grandparents. And then he brings me in, and his mother is like, oh my God. And she's like fawning over me. Then I find out that his grandfather is Italian, and my grandfather was Italian, and they came over on the boat from Italy, and my grandparents with my great-grandparents with my grandfather, they all came in through Philly, and they had nowhere to stay once they moved to Hershey, Pennsylvania. And it just so happens, I mean, it was like God shot, or if you don't like that term, God, universe shot. And it turns out his grandfather's like, Velati? Is your grandfather Verlin Velati? Is your dad is Tim Velati? And the whole family is freaking out because they're like, oh my gosh, like the grandfather's like, we took your entire grandfather and his family in with us. And his mom had a crush on my dad in high school. And then I meet his uncle. And his uncle is like, I went on a skiing trip with your mother. And I'm like, oh my God. I had a ton of baby pictures where it's my mom and she's skiing with some unknown man. And I'm like, shut up. Like, it was all just, like, I was like, it's meant to be. Oh my God, this is like, I never felt all of that ever come together. And so, I had, like I said, I became very spiritual and I was religious, but I wasn't a judgmental religious person. So please do not turn this off if you're like, I hate religious people. Screw you. I was not that person. And I wrote a little, the little like biography underneath your Facebook. I don't know if we do that anymore, but at the time it did. And I said, I tried everything. I tried alcohol. I tried drugs, which I didn't mean like heroin. I meant marijuana, which really, it's legal in like 18 states. Like, does that even count? I just named a bunch of things. Like, and the point being, I got to the end of it was trying to give a testimony to people that nothing fulfilled me but our Creator. And within a week, so I go from being on a high, we went to Philly, we went and shopped in Philly, we went out in Philly. I mean, we were just together, him and I. And then within a week, his sister, who was very jealous of him because I guess his parents gave him kind of everything and she felt cheated. Well, she worked at this hotel. And this girl I went to school with, who was a year younger, I even sat at lunch with her, works with his sister and tells his sister that I'm a drug dealer, addict. I can't even remember. And suddenly we pull up in the driveway and I get out and his mom is sitting out at the pool and she's like, Tiffany, come here. And I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? And she's like, it's going around that you're, I think a drug dealer is what was said. And I'm like, well, wait, what? Whoa, what? Like, first off, I have been sober my entire 20s. Like, I was completely sober. What are you talking about? And she's like, well, she didn't want to tell me, but she liked me so much that she was like, my daughter works at the hotel with this girl. And I'm like, who is this girl, right? Who told her that you are a drug addict or a drug dealer? I can't even remember. And I'm like, what? And I literally was like, who said that? Because they are lying and they are literally assassinating my character. And she's like, it's on your Facebook. You've got to take that down. And his mom's like trying to like control me and tell me like, and I go, wait, let me show you what I wrote. I go, I meant marijuana. And that was like in my teens. And the whole point was not alcohol or marijuana, or I even said sex. I mean, I thought, who cares, right? I'm saying everything the majority of people have tried. And I read it to her. She saw it, and I said, the best high of all was God, was Jesus. For me, was God. Best high yet. And that was the point, because I was so close to, at that point, I was just like leaning on God for strength. And to beat my depression, and to beat my PTSD, and to beat my childhood abuse, and to be accused of this, I was like, what? And it just so happened right before she said this, me, my boyfriend, Matt, his sister, and her husband, who literally is a drug and alcohol counselor. And he brings us into the basement and rolls blunts of marijuana for everyone to smoke. And I'm like, hold on a second. So your daughter is getting information from this girl who was lying. First off, we said it, like, you partied more than I did in high school. This girl, like, I'm like, what is she doing? And at the same time, to his sister, I was like, really? Like, your husband is a drug and alcohol counselor and smokes people up in the basement. And you're going to try to attack me and say, I don't want my brother to date. I can't even remember. A drug dealer? A drug dealer is what I think she kept saying. And did I tell the mother? No. No, because I was like, that's rude. I know, I don't shame them, and I'm not going to do that to them. And that was the beginning of the end. And it was a week and a half in. And all of a sudden, because the night we all went out, his sister loved me. Her best friend loved me. They all loved me until we went out, and I noticed the husband of the best friend was like kind of checking me out. And they were like all of a sudden getting together, and I could see like whispering. You know how women can be, right? And I said, no, I'm not taking that down. That's not about drugs, alcohol, sex. It's about God. And you're claiming to be Catholic, and you're claiming that you're religious. Why would you tear me down? And it went from this like meeting your Prince Charming, who you were like, oh my God, I should have been with this guy from the beginning, to 180. And he started to stay at my apartment and just like kind of disappeared. And he had really like shady friends. And I have proof for that, because at the end, years later, while I'm in Hollywood, I get a text that said Matt died in a drunk driving car accident. And I was like, oh no. Because that was the hardest breakup of my life. His mother ended up literally being the cause of the breakup, because she would not stop. And the thing is, I remember I would vacuum. His mom would leave. I would vacuum the entire house. I would Windex the windows, the mirrors. I would clean the whole bathroom. And his grandma would be upstairs like, what are you doing? She was so sweet. And she's like, oh my God, what are you doing? Now you want to clean? Now you want to vacuum? And his mom, I remember hoping his mom would come home. And she would be like, see the vacuum lines. And see everything that was clear. And I remember instead she would come home. She came home. And I remember her going, it looks like somebody threw up on the mirror. I remember. Like, once again, this is the cycle of the codependent. So now, like, I'm not trying to please a man. I'm trying to, in my brain, because I don't get it. I don't get it yet. But my brain gets it. And in actuality, I'm trying to please my mother. I'm trying to please my stepmother. Because the brain, if you're codependent and you have trauma bonding, trauma bonding is when you lived with your abusive parents or step-parents and you have to rely on them. But they're abusing you. And that's called trauma bonding. So you're like, keep on trying to please them, but they keep like rejecting you, and that the trauma bond then is mapped in your brain. And then you grow up and you're like, why do I keep picking boyfriends with mothers like this? Why do I keep picking men like this? It all goes back to your psyche is trying to connect and finish the cycle, but in a positive way, to where you finally get the love and acceptance that you never got. And I tried. And it kept going on, and it got really bad, and it destroyed Matt's and I relationship. I mean, we all thought we were going to get married. Everyone, his mother's friends would think, everyone thought we were going to get married. We thought we were going to get married. There was no other, we found each other. And so, to leave that relationship, let me just say, if you are trying to leave a relationship that has some components of abuse, give it, at first it's going to be HELL. It's going to be so bad. You're going to feel like you're withdrawing from alcohol, or like you're like going through hell. And you just got to get through, I'd say 30 days. 2 weeks, it gets easier and easier. At first it's excruciating. And I ended up moving down 30 minutes south with my best friend, Steven, the friend that helped me out before. And for Christmas, literally, they begged me to go to Florida with him to stay with his mother, because I was like sobbing. Oh God, it makes me want to cry right now. I was sobbing. My soul had never felt, it was like a ripping away of the soul, and it's like our souls were intertwined and had to rip away from each other. It was awful. And so I encourage you, if you are in a relationship and you just keep seeing red flag, and you try to break up, usually it takes multiple breakups. For me, it did. Multiple breakups. And you go back, because then you feel the love addiction and the craving. It's like quitting cigarettes or something, or quitting anything. And then you're craving. Your body's like, no, no. I gotta go back. It's hell here, but it's less hell here. But the hell there is going to be ongoing for the rest of your life if you stay sometimes. And I'm not saying break up with anyone. I'm just saying listen to your emotions. A lot of times we ignore our emotions, but our emotions are signs. And they are there to literally point you. If you're in pain when you're around someone, your body is saying, hold up. This is not healthy for me. This feels manipulative to me. And that's a sign. If somebody treats you amazing, not love bombing, like narcissists will love bomb you. And they'll tell you you're amazing and they'll lift you up and then they'll tear you down. And then you're like, wait, oh, like a puppy chasing them. Not like that. But let's say, you just had so much love with that person. And now you're without. You don't have them texting you. You feel like lost. And like, literally, I felt like I was gonna die. And so I moved down with him, my best friend, Steven again. And like I said, I had blown my knees out and my feet had pain from going to that church. Finally, I found a surgeon that was like, we're going to do surgery. So he tried my left side first. He did my knee and then my foot. And each one took an entire year to heal. And wow. Imagine going through the COVID-19 for 2 years. Not just 1 year. This was back-to-back 2 years. And that's when I started to make my YouTube. That's the one positive that came out. I had nothing to do. I'm on crutches everywhere I go. And I finally start to make YouTube videos. Like, I was just like reaching. I didn't even care. Like, if I thought a Beyonce video was great, I did the Beyonce video. If I thought like Faith by Michael, what's his name? George Michael, I did that. If I like, and I'm on crutches, and then I'll throw them down and record. And then I remember that was another run-in with bullies, internet bullies, and it was horrible. I literally made a bunch of videos, and I had a plethora of haters. And they literally went and made a whole page on me on this website that craps on people and just shames people. And I freaked out and I deleted, I blocked, I made private all of my videos. And I sank very low because I was like, I'm an idiot. I'm so freaking stupid. One guy, I had underwear on and I'm doing the one blurred lines video I just decided to redo for, because I'm on, I just had surgery, right? I'm just trying to keep myself busy and with artistic things. Some jerk paused it as I'm kicked my legs up. I was crossing my legs, but like kicking them up, and you couldn't see anything. I had underwear on. They were plum. Do I plum? It's darker than this. Plum Body by Victoria underwear on. This person slow-moed it down so much so that you could, and then he paused it. So it looked like my vagina was just out with my legs up. And he, on the page where they harassed me and bullied me, he wrote, she even showed us her meat flaps. And I was like, and I'm like horrified. And I'm like, I have underwear on, you idiot. And what kind of person pauses and slow-mos? Like, if you watch it, it's like my legs are crossed. Like, you can't see anything. He must have, like, I couldn't even say the amount of work this man put in to trying to catch me and say it was my vagina. And I thought I was going to kill myself. Let me just say, that's one of the reasons I adore Meghan Markle. You may not, you may hate her, you might turn my video off, but when I see anybody bullied, I'm like, no, 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 no. Let that person live. What are you doing? Go make your own video. Like, why is this guy so obsessed with my videos? He's putting that much work in. At this point, bro, you need to climb out of your mother's basement. You need to get a life, and you need to pour yourself into a passion of yours. But to do this and destroy somebody's soul? And so I made everything private. I stopped at this point. So now as this is going on, I started drinking extensively. And I thought, oh, I'm just partying, like with boxed wine. Like, I'm laying for 2 years waiting for myself to heal. I'm just going to drink and have fun. And I got a freaking microphone and an amp. And I'm like singing songs. I don't know how I did not get arrested for noise complaints. But I'm literally just like, F it, it's party time. And little did I know or connect from the early LA fitness years that I was an alcoholic and this was getting bad. And I had met this guy in LA. I went on POF or whatever, one of those websites, and I was like, I'm coming out there, not coming out of the closet. I'm coming out to Hollywood, and so I'm not going to date someone from here. And I met some guy, and we made really good friends, and like bonded, and I went out on vacation for a little bit to see him, and then I came back. I got my other surgery. That took another year to heal. So I'm still drinking. And I didn't realize either, like, I remember having a bottle, I would drink an entire bottle of whiskey, like the kind with the handle, the big, big kind. And at one point, I crawled outside of the bathroom window onto the roof with my crutches and my boot on my foot, that big surgery boot, and I crawl out. And I'm just like, F the world, because I had just turned 30. And nobody, and I mean by nobody, my family, my father in specifically, I meant my father. And he didn't even say happy birthday. And to me, my 30th, it was like it was my 30th birthday, and to me, I felt horribly alone and disappointed and neglected. And so my friend Steven is severely worried because I'm on the like a slanted roof in crutches with a boot on. I can't walk. And a bottle of whiskey with me. He calls the cops. The cops come and they shine like their flashlight. I don't mean to laugh, but really, they shine their flashlight out. And they're like, hey. It was the nicest I've ever seen cops be. It was nothing like this crazy crap you see today. They were like kind of terrified of what I might do. Like, they were scared. And They're like, why don't you come on back in here? And I'm like, nah, nah, I'm fine. F you. Like, I was like, F everybody. Try not even to cry. And they convinced me somehow to crawl off. I think it was just out of their panic that they were like, she's really gonna do something crazy. And they're like, why don't you just come back on in here and we'll talk about it. And look, I've had cops treat me awful, terrible, awful. So I don't consider this some white privilege because first off, I'm Italian, I have black hair. I've experienced negative cops, horrible cops, disgusting cops. But they were like, oh, hey, come on back in here. And I'm like, fine. And I'm like scooting across the frickin' roof. I come, and the windows literally, I can't even fit barely in or out. And I sit down on my friend's bed, and they're all like surrounding me, and they're like, what's going on? What's going on? And you're like, screw you. Like, if you're drunk and there's cops trying to pretend they care, you're like, F you. But they were like, are you, like, tell me what's going on. And I'm like, nah. And I finally told them, you know, it's my 30th birthday past. And I thought for sure out of all people that my dad would say, text, not even a call, just text. Happy 30th. Like, you're not 20, you're 30. This is like the beginning of adulthood. And I was like, and I kind of recapped everything, and they were all like, that's one time I will give cops credit because, like I said, I've dealt with really jerk-off cops, but they stood around me and they're like, wow, no, wow, oh my God, I would feel the exact same. Like, I'm terribly, terribly sorry. No, 30th birthday, like, I would be out there too. And I was like, really? Like, just to hear somebody listen to you was huge. And, you know, that passed through. I got through it. I was like, F my dad. I would keep calling him, though, through the years. And like they say this in the 12-step meetings. There's multiple 12-step meetings. All sorts. Not just AA. There's all sorts. There's codependency 12-step meetings. There's ACA/dysfunctional family, adult children of alcohol/dysfunctional family meetings. All of them. And it's like, so, oof. I eventually healed up, and I got a call from my friend John in Hollywood. And he said, and it was like about time my foot was healing, and he said, hey, my roommate just left. Would you like to be my new roommate? And I was like, sure. Awesome, perfect timing. So I couldn't believe it because I had saved up $3,000 to go out, and I never thought I would make it. And part of me was like, well, should I stay? What if the Blue-Eyed Six blows up? What do I do? And somebody was like, who cares? Don't let anybody stop you. And I went out. I met the #1 Hollywood casting director, period. She has casted everything. Sopranos, everything. And like, so let me skip forward because I ended up, wow, like at the beginning, I ended up meeting Kim Kim Kardashian, you might hate her, you might love her, but you gotta admit, the girl's got some hustle. And I met her, and I remember I was like, I have all these things to say to Kim. Like, thank you, you're a brunette, and you made it. You surpassed the white supremacy thing. And it's like my turn to go up, and I'm like, I'm like, hi, Kim. Not really that bad, but she's like, oh my God, I love your dress. And I was like, literally thought that day, what should I wear? Like, what would Kim like? Anyways, I really looked up to her because she's Mediterranean, I'm Mediterranean, and I was like, I got big butt, she got big butt, I got boobs, she got boobs. I was like, I love her. I mean, I ended up, I said I met Robert Downey Jr. at one point. I met Sofia Vergara's husband, Joe Manganiello, and having like this one-on-one with him. That's Sofia Vergara's husband for Magic Mike. Joaquin Phoenix, for a brief time when I got sober, I smoked cigarettes. I do not smoke cigarettes anymore. I do not recommend them. Of course, they're awful. I'm so grateful God helped me quit them. But I asked Joaquin Phoenix for a lighter, and prior to the Joker movie. But I didn't even know. I went up and I'm like, does anyone have a lighter? And he's like, here. And he like looks at me and I'm like looking at him and I'm like, thanks. And then I'm like, and I walk over to the girl in my group that I was standing with. I go, did Joaquin Phoenix just give me a lighter? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh, wow. And then I like returned it to him. He's like, cool, thanks. And he was like, I'm like, wow. That's dope. Like, he's a real person. Hollywood tries to make people into like these above average, like these like gods and goddesses. And in actuality, they're just like you and me. And I mean, I've met Ozzy Osbourne. I've seen Ozzy Osbourne. Just a lot of people that I never thought. Like, I was just like, whoa. Like, my life went from struggling and trying to break free and just dead end after dead end. And then finally, I'm like, screw it. I'm following my passion. And at this time, I start to go to meetings. Because the alcohol, I was partying. And in LA, there are parties. And there are club promoters every single night of the week. And they are all trying to get you to go. They're all trying to get you to go. And I went for a very long time until I was like ragged. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And I had met a friend and he started to teach me how about comedy skits. And we would make comedy skits with him and his friends and like put them on YouTube. And I was like, prior to this, I was so into drama. I wanted to win an Oscar. It had to be deep and dark and scary and sad so I could express my grief. And then it changed to like, oh my God, like I love comedy. It's so exciting to like say a line when it's comedy. And then like my girlfriend hired me for a pilot. And I'm like in a scene with, what's his name? Frickin', oh Lord, here we go again. Well, Tehran, he has his own show. I forget his name. Oh my God, forgive me for forgetting your name. But I did a pilot. He's like a major comedian. And it was just crazy. that these people were real people. And I ended up going to like AA, getting sober, going to CODA, 12-step codependency, 12-step program, going to ACA, adult children of alcoholics / dysfunctional families. You don't have to be have an alcoholic as a parent. It could also just have been a dysfunctional family. I mean, these programs literally saved my life. Yeah. And just having to face and beat on a day-to-day basis. It's not once and done. It's day-to-day. It's doing my affirmations, my codependency affirmations, doing my adult children of alcoholic dysfunctional family, doing the promises, which, let me just say real quick, a lot of them, one is we will learn to have fun in our lives. And another, we will learn to have fun in our lives and reclaim that childhood fun. We will learn to become our own, this is it right here. Whenever I freak out, we will learn to become our own loving parent. I was like, what? Because there's this thing in the brain. You internalize and it maps your brain as a child. Your inner critical parent is what it's called. And whatever your parents or your caretaker said, it mapped your brain. And that's psychology. That is science. And you now you're given this idea of becoming your own loving parent. Also, it talks about the getcha God. So if you have an issue with religion, oh my God, that freed me. It talked about how a lot of religions will talk about the getcha God. Like, like I'm going to get you. Like, I'm just waiting for you to sin. I'm waiting for you to F up. And then I gotcha. And then we internalize that. Whoever put that in our heads. And you learn that God has already forgiven you. And that God is on your side and loves you. Okay, so another promise, another thing on the laundry, it's called the laundry list. And I'll do a whole video on that. From the ACA / dysfunctional family 12-step program. When you've been abused as a child, you grew a fear of authority figure. You grew a fear of the narcissistic parent in your life. The mother, the stepfather, the father, whoever it may be. And now, in your adult life, you are at work, and you look at your boss, let's say, and they're just nasty. Let's just say they're narcissistic and they're just mean as mean can be. And I went through that. I won't even name the show, but I've done 200 episodes with one director in Hollywood, and she is nasty as a snake. And she has it in for me. I don't know why, but I will be the last person that she sits. And I'm the tiniest. And she'll sit me always where I can't be seen. And I always felt like I was the little 3-year-old little girl, like going to school, going to see my mom, going to see my stepdad. And I'm like, oh. And one of the promises is that you will stop fearing authority figures. And that, when I heard that, once again, like mind blown. And when you hear it day after day, and I suggest if you're not in Hollywood, because Hollywood has it all. They have all the meetings around the clock. I would suggest Zoom meetings until the virus ends, the COVID. I would suggest, if you're an alcoholic, or if you're codependent, or if you are a child who was abused, go to ACA, I would go to any 12-step meeting will really kind of talk to you. Because really, when you go to the root of the problem, it all kind of stems from childhood abuse and neglect. So, they keep running their water. So when I came out here and I started plugging away, it took years. It's taken years. It's taken so many years. And I left. The guy wanted to marry me, who I first became roommates with, and then when he realized I wasn't into it, he became severely abusive, almost snapped my wrists off, kicked me out because he got a new girlfriend, and I went to Skid Row, to the shelter, just so happened to be on Skid Row, I didn't know that. Went there and I was like, oh, heck to the no. No. And so my friend and I were like, okay. And for a long years, my friend sat straight up in the car, sleeping every night, all night. We would shower 24-hour fitness. And for years, I slept on pillows upon pillows until I realized, oh my God, my legs are really hurting because they go flat. Finally, I decided, wait a second, what's the difference between pillows and a mattress? Springs. Let's get a baby mattress. I got a flipping baby mattress. Because why? Because I refuse to give up on my dream. So whatever your dream is, I don't care if it's making surfboards. I don't care if it's being a florist. It doesn't matter. I don't care if, you want to be a politician or like whatever it is. You don't have to want to be an actress. Whatever it is, and you've been abused and you've been through trauma, don't give up. Keep going, because I promise you, just pray. I would say pray to a God, a loving God of your own understanding. You don't have to go to church. You don't have to listen to any other religious people. All you have to do is go by yourself and pray, because the same, He made you. Whoever the God is, whoever the creator is, He made you, and you have just as much of a right as a religious person to pray. And I guarantee the God of the universe who made you loves you just as much and has a plan, and He hears you. He, she, whatever you want to say, the God of the universe hears you. The creator hears you. And if you ask for help and guidance, just wait and see, and I swear to you, you're gonna, stuff's gonna start happening. And I think that's where I'm gonna leave it for this video. I apologize if it was extremely long. I posted it and then I was like, wait, I forgot a bunch of crap. But just, I would suggest in the mornings, make a list, or I would do Louise Hay is the best, because she doesn't involve religion. If you have a fear of religion, I would do Louise, Louise, Hayes, Hays, affirmations. And it's simple. It's like, I am beautiful. Everybody loves me. And I know it may sound silly, but if you've been through trauma, you're not waking up going, I'm beautiful. Everybody loves me. You're like emotional flashbacks. Like, am I safe? I don't think I'm safe. Am I okay? Oh my God, I'm afraid to go outside. What if everybody hates me at work? What if I take this job and I screw up? So I know a lot of people try to make affirmations, like this, like BS psychology that doesn't count, I am telling you, as someone who, I have tried everything, and one of the main things is affirmations. When I start telling myself, you know what it is? It's saying positive things to yourself. Because if you were abused, you probably never woke up and were told positive things. So it makes psychological sense to do affirmations, positive affirmations. Because as a child, you were supposed to hear that. You were supposed to hear, I am lovable, you are beautiful, you are capable, God is with you. And that's one thing that has changed my life. Because otherwise my brain will go to the negative and spiral. I would suggest listening. If you're ever in a huge bind, go to Self-Love You. She's amazing. Self-Love You. Spelled out fully, she's amazing. She gets right to the point. If you don't feel lovable, she has a video on it. And why and how it's BS. Ross Rosenberg is amazing. Ross Rosenberg. And he talks about codependency and narcissistic abuse, and he calls it self-love deficiency. If you feel like you don't love yourself, self-love deficiency, and he's got it. And you're like, whoa. Another, I've said it before, Lisa A. Romano. She's amazing. But prior to this, I would always suggest that you keep this one thing in the forefront of your mind, is to be your own loving parent. Because sometimes I would do some meditations and I didn't have that mindset of be my own loving parent. If you ever start to freak out and spiral and you're like anxiety, what would my loving parent say? Imagine the little child who you were when you were a child coming to you and telling you, this is happening, I'm feeling this way. What would you tell that child? Would you tell that child, you're right, you know what, you really should have done a better job on that test, or you could have gotten to work earlier? You would say, you're lovable. You tried your best to get to work early today. We'll work a plan out, but you're still lovable. We'll work a plan out so you can get to work earlier. But would you like chop that child down? No. If you feel ugly and that little child came to you and said, I feel ugly, I don't look like this and that, would you go, yeah, you're right, girlfriend. You need to go fix them. You need to go get plastic surgery. No. What I'm sure you would say, I would say, anyone would say to a little child is, oh my God. It would break your heart. Oh my God, come here. You're beautiful. You're beautiful exactly how God made you. You were created. God crafted you and you came out of the womb like that. That's amazing. You're one of a kind. And you got to go from there. But and you know what? It's one day at a time. Because sometimes I freak out and I go, how am I ever? I keep doing this day by day. One day, every day. I skip one day and I feel like blowing my brains out. It's one day at a time. And one day at a time, you get better. If one day goes bad, don't give up on the rest of your days. Just say, okay, it's easy. Find a meeting. Find a 12-step meeting. They're also slaw. And I know that has a really bad, connotation to it. It is a very, people think oh, sex and love addict. Oh, so you just like to screw people? what I would explain is the love addiction part. And it goes back again to your parents. If you did not get the love from your mother or father, you now grow up and you're searching for a man, that one man that will fulfill that emptiness that your father left you without. He left you with it, that emptiness. He left you without that fulfillment. If you're a man or a lesbian and you're searching for that love, and you just keep going and going, you're obsessed, and if they don't pick up the phone, if they don't say the right things to you, you freak out. Because once again, it's mapped in your brain and your psyche, and that is scientific. And you will keep on seeking it from them. And you have got to get to a point. That's what SLAW does, sex and love addict. Because a lot of times we think we'll have sex with somebody, and we think, oh, that means they love me. Or you don't feel like having sex, right? But you want to feel loved. And you're like, okay, fine. Like, you push down that, like, voice that's like, I don't want to have sex. I just want to feel loved. And you push it down. And then you have sex and you feel like crap. But then you're like, oh, no, I feel loved. They love me. So that, once again, is trying to fulfill the cycle. My dad didn't love me. I have to find a man today to fulfill the cycle that will love me. My mother didn't love me. I have to find a woman to fulfill that role who loves me and says all the right things, and then I will be okay. And honestly, it's a never-ending pit. Woo! Okay, I have talked enough now, and if you have survived through this entire video, congratulations. I pray and hope this sticks with you, and I know for a fact things are going to start, I pray things start moving in your life and just coming to you, and I know you're going to get better. I know you're going to get better. And you have a purpose. You are designed to do something here on this earth to make this place even more wonderful than it is, even despite of COVID, okay? So, like I said, even when those negative voices come in, and you start thinking what a bully said to you, imagine that. Imagine they said it to that little child. If I would suggest getting a picture of yourself at multiple ages that you felt trauma, and I would suggest keeping that very close to you. And when that voice says, you're not this, you're this, so-and-so said this, imagine that little child and them saying that to you, that somebody said that to them. What would you say? Be your own loving parent. And I promise it will change. I love you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.